So back when Team Corrali announced that they were coming out with an A-scale basher lineup, the Kronos is the truck that really stood out to me. I really wanted it. It just had a cool look in my opinion. Just loved the large stance of it, the large tires, and of course the high-powered system that is just going to make this thing a blast. But what we got into test was the Dementor, and that was a lot of fun too. Had a blast just ripping that thing around the BMX track and even took it out into some big fields for jumps and stuff like that. It was a lot of fun. But now that we have the V2s, I was able to get my hands on the Kronos. So I'm really excited to test this thing and of course tell you guys about all of its features. So let's start off on the exterior, and it's got a new look. And this new styling looks pretty good in my opinion. Kind of like a motocross helmet. Very vibrant colors on here. Still has the Kronos logo on the side. Very swoopy monster truck style of body with this big dorsal fin in the back basically. Just a very cool look in my opinion. That's probably going to translate to fun when you're out there driving it. It does have the tethers for the body clips, which makes retaining those really easy for when you're swapping out batteries or doing maintenance or whatever. But pretty good look, Corrali. I like the direction you're going in there. Out back is the A-scale style wing that we've seen before. It's got some decals that match up with the body. And then on all four corners, we have these large truck tires with these massive treads on here. It's just going to be so much fun to tear up dirt with. The black rims on here, the spoke rims look very cool as well, and pretty firm. So when this thing is just ripping on the power, hopefully it doesn't expand too much and it keeps control over the truck. But really like these tires. These are like what were on the Dementor, and I like those. Now it's time to get into this thing and talk about some of the new features that are on it. Again, this is the V2, and one of the things that I think a lot of people are really interested in is the front skid, actually the front and rear skid. So it is a massive bumper skid setup. We've got countersunk washers here to help secure that thing in place, really just take a lot of the abuse. And you can see it spans all the way from the front four screws that hold the gear case all the way to a center screw back here past where the kick-up plate is on the chassis. So we've got a lot of bracing there, and that's really cool to see. These things feel pretty strong, and they actually integrate the rear caps into it as well, or cover the rear caps as well. So there's just a lot of plastic there to help keep everything together. Hopefully, you know, protect this truck from damage and, you know, again, allow this thing to glide over bumps and dirt and stuff like that underneath it. So really cool to see that update on this vehicle. Another update is the arms. So these are the HICCA high carbon composite arms. So these are a lot stronger than the original arms. These are the V2 arms. And so hopefully these things won't break. I reviewed the Radix that had new arms on there, and these seem really strong as well. The other change here to the suspension is the camber links. So the rear camber links are a fixed link now. They had tie rods before, and the steering links are actually fixed links as well. Because this is a pivot ball style of suspension, you still have a little bit of adjustability there. Not that you're going to on a basher style of vehicle, but the option is there. But really bulky steering knuckles on this with the aluminum tabs, and overall really nice looking suspension setup. Perfect for a monster style truggy. 4mm shock tower in the front, 5mm aluminum shock tower in the rear. And if you watch my Radix review, you probably saw that I really like these aluminum shocks that are on here. They definitely have a good feel on this truck as well. No dust boots on it, but I'm totally cool with that for this basher style vehicle, especially where I'm going to be driving it. And since I maintain my vehicles, I'm not too worried about it. But it does have enough pack in here, I believe, to really help this truck out when you're landing off of some big jumps. And that's going to be a little dependent on the style of battery you're going to run. So I'm going to run a 6S pack on here. You can run up to 6S in this truck. You know, in the Radix 6, I noticed that the suspension was really dialed in for 4S, but once you put that heavier pack in there, you really had to go and adjust the preload, and then you know, I was suggesting you adjust oils in here as well. But this feels really good right out of the box, and I'm thinking a 6S pack, you know, might feel good in here with the extra weight. But let me see, what else should we talk about? We've got you know, aluminum plates to secure the hinge pins, sway bar to help with the performance handling on this. Out in the rear, again, you know, we've got those new arms, sway bars, the big 16mm bore shocks, and heavy-duty hubs. Even the hinge pins on the outside have huge heads on them just to make sure everything is secure, doesn't pull out. So again, I really like the setup on these Corrali cars. Another change to the suspension is the front plate here. So they have an aluminum brace plate up top just to help secure and brace everything. Really nice addition to see. And that really rounds out the suspension on this. Let's move on to the steering really quick. Twin 8-scale style crank setup with a servo saver in it, and it does have a 7075 Ackerman plate that goes across the two, which I believe is new to the V2 kits, a stronger plate there. So that's good for all you bashers that are hard on the steering. There is a short linkage over to an aluminum horn on the steering servo. We'll talk about the steering servo later, but nice that it has a horn on there. Now let's move on to the drivetrain. So drivetrain, pretty easy to access, you know, kind of standard disassembly for an A-scale style of vehicle. Up front we have spiral cut gears for the ring and pinion, and then a composite plastic gear case for the bevel gears to sit in for the differential. Oil filled, from what I could tell. It definitely feels a little light for the large tires that are on here. I did go take apart the center differential, and there was oil in there. It looked like a really heavy oil from what I could tell, but the big deal about the center differential is it does have the aluminum case on there, and you know, really heavy duty seals, steel gear for the spur gear, and of course steel pinion gear, and then an aluminum motor plate. We've got CV style axles in the front, dog bones in the center, long dog bone to go to the rear, and then dog bones that go out to the rear wheels. So, you know, no CVs in the rear, but we've got CVs in from the front where it's most important. One thing I didn't mention, I think, in the Radix review, and it needs to be called out here, is they do have rubber shielded bearings on this. You know, it's not a metal seal, it's rubber shield. So for those of you that may be going out in some damp conditions or dusty conditions where it may get some grime into the bearings, those rubber shielded bearings will help prevent that from happening. Just, you know, allow your drivetrain to last a lot longer. All right, what else should we talk about drivetrain wise? That's it. I think I've nailed everything there. Let's talk about the chassis. So 3mm chassis, aluminum chassis, of course. We've got dust shields on the sides with some countersunk washers to hold those down from the top. That's very cool. The big deal here for me is the bracing. This is what really attracted me to the Kronos when I saw pictures of the original version. Look at these large braces that we have. We got one on each side going up to the shock tower, one long one going from the gear case all the way down to the center, and even up in the front here, we've got a brace from the shock tower down to this front brace, and you know, everything is just braced really nice. It doesn't seem there's a lot of flex in the center of this at all. The other cool feature in the center here is obviously this tower plate that helps prevent the body from crushing down on the inside. Just helps keep everything in check. And then we've got a nice large adjustable battery tray here with these Velcro straps to secure your packs. And everything looks pretty easy to work on. I mean, I pulled the center diff out of this, just 4 screws to actually remove it from the truck, so that was nice and simple. The motor mount in here, also easy to access and adjust, so if you want to swap out your pinion gears, readjust the mesh, that should be fairly easy as well. Receiver box to protect the receiver, of course, and that really makes up the center section. All right, with that out of the way, now it's just time to talk about the electronics. So we've got the very prop 7225 high torque, digital, high voltage, metal geared servo here. Hopefully that provides plenty of torque for these big wheels, you know, as you're whipping around with this thing. Over here we've got the Torx 185 hobby wing based speed controller. Big XT90 plugs on here, one with a jumper plug and you know, large wire, 12 gauge wires over to the motor. These are splash resistant electronics in here, so you know, I think you can get them mildly wet. I wouldn't submerge them. I wouldn't you know, suggest that for any type of bash or monster truck. Over here is the Curon 825 2050 kV brushless motor. Excuse me there, brushless motor, and that's what we saw in the Radix that I reviewed. And this thing, that thing had a lot of power to it, so I'm sure it's going to put a lot of power down here as well. Receiver is mounted inside, and of course they give you the radio system, the S2R radio that I showed you guys in the Radix review. This is what they have in all the ready-to-run 8-scale vehicles. Although it's a small-looking radio, actually it feels really good and does the job pretty well. The only other thing that they give you in these kits is your instructions and an antenna. So if you need any tools or anything like that, you're going to have to supply it on your own. But overall, this thing really looks cool. I'm really excited to drive it. I've been wanting to drive one of these for a long time. So let's head outside and have some fun with it. Well, after that awesome day of bashing in the dirt lot, I decided to come over to the BMX track for some more running, talk to you guys about the performance while I drive, and I decided to put a 4S battery pack in it. You know, after driving it yesterday on 6S, it's got a ton of power, and I think I'm just gonna overshoot everything here on the BMX track, and I think this thing is really set up for 4S. So let's head over now and pull the throttle. All right, here we go. Some 4S power here. Let's see how this thing does. Oh yeah, nice and smooth. Really controllable. That's a lot more fun. Nice. There we go. All right, I've got a feel for this thing already. And yeah, this thing's definitely set up out of the box for 4S, in my opinion. You know, if you want to go do crazy standing backflips right out of the box, yeah, it'll be awesome on 6S. It'll do it. But look how drivable, look how smooth this thing is. Plenty of steering. Plenty of brake control. Just whip this thing around. Oh, I was trying to downside it. Went a little too far, still pulled it out. Nice, and look at that. That is fun. That's where it's at. Let me see if I can clear this. Oh, nice. There we go. Ooh, nice. I love that when it just kind of floats up and over a jump. Now I'm having a really good time with this. I had a good time with it yesterday on 6S, but with these big wheels on there and you know, the diff oils that they have in it, it just sends so much power to the front, which again, I mean, is cool for some stunt type stuff, but there's sometimes where you really just want to enjoy the truck, and this is where it's at. All right, it's really impressing me now how much control this truck has. That's cool. There we go, downside that thing finally. I overshot that, but this is so much fun. All right, let me switch up jumps here, see what else this thing could do. All right, I like this spot right here. It's kind of a turning tabletop, so it's a little bit of a challenge. Oh. Little durability test there, but yeah, this tabletop is a challenge because of it's on a turn, but could also be a lot of fun too. Look how you just whip that thing around. Yeah. We could backflip it on 4S. Yep, you can backflip on 4S. That's pretty awesome, and that's just a little kicker off this jump here. So that's pretty impressive. Just listen to those tires grab. That's pretty awesome. Nice smooth jumping. All right, let's move on. All right, the tabletop with the double. This should prove to be a challenge. Not at all, actually. That was pretty good. Just love to listen to those tires. Oh, so much fun. That's the sweet spot. 4S on this truck. I think the shock oils are just right. Oop. Diff oils are just right for 4S. And I think that's where the fun factor for non-stop driving is gonna be. All right, now we gotta go over to the big jump. All right, now that I got a feel for it, let's get some more air. There we go, nice control. Just landed on the back of that downside. Ooh, a little far there, but still good. There we go, nice. I mean, it just floats. That was cool. You know, when I first saw the Kronos, version 1. This is a truck I really thought I wanted, and now that I have it in V2, it's very cool. I definitely enjoy it. Nice. Nice and easy. I mean, it's almost effortless here. Look at this. Off the downside, a little touch on the backside of that jump. That was cool. Spins around nice and easily within a BMX track lane. And it seems to be really durable. I mean, yesterday we put it through a lot on 6S, doing those crazy backflips, standing backflips and stuff, ripping through the berms. I took a look at it last night, no issues. Team Corrali, you guys did an awesome job on this one. Yeah. All right, guys, I think it's time to head back to the workshop and we can wrap up this review. All right, so let's wrap up the review of the Team Corrali Kronos V2. And as I mentioned in the video, this is the truck that really caught my eye when Team Corrali released all of their basher vehicles. And I really enjoyed it out there at the BMX track and in that dirt lot. This is just a beast. This thing has a ton of power. It's a lot of fun to drive. These big wheels make it a blast when you're ripping through the dirt, through those berms and stuff, just dirt flying everywhere. The suspension on here works really well, and so does the drivetrain. If you're running on 4S, that's kind of key here with this. It is a 6S capable truck. You don't have to run it on 6S. It runs on 3S, 4S, 5S, 6S. The 4S battery pack seemed to be the sweet spot for me where I really enjoyed this truck, the way it performed. Again, you know, on 4S, I thought it had plenty of power. I thought it jumped really well. It was very manageable as far as the throttle goes when you're punching it to correct off of the jumps or hitting the brake. The acceleration was on point as well with 4S. The steering on this thing, love this high voltage digital servo in here. It gave this truck plenty of steering and off the jumps and stuff. The landings were nice and plush as long as you didn't overshoot the lander. If you do flat land it, you'll get a little bit of a bounce from the rear of the truck. But that just shows you need to find jumps where you could land this thing nice and easily on the downside of something. And it will be awesome. It'll be a great performer for you. On 6S, it just goes wild at that point. The setup I don't think is really suited for 6S. I think that's where you're going to go in and need to do some work to the truck if you want to go and jump it. If you do want to go out to, let's say, a big dirt field, big dirt lot, and just rip passes back and forth, go through some mild bumps and stuff like that, that's where 6S will be crazy. It'll be fun. The truck out of the box will handle that. But again, if you want to go bigger with it, that's when you're probably going to have some issues. You know, you'll have to go change the differential oils because they do feel rather light. Now that I've driven it, you know, the rear spins pretty free, so does the front. The center still feels okay, but when you go put more power in there, that's when it just kind of goes and diffs out, and you know, you have to really control it a lot. The upside to overpowering a truck on 6S is this thing will do standing backflips. It'll do multiple backflips if you just hold onto the throttle. Of course, I don't really recommend that because that's when things kind of break. When things are, you know, the tires are just big, it's grabbing stuff. That's when you could possibly damage your vehicle. Don't recommend you doing that. But let me talk to you about durability on this. So right off the bat, the screws for all of the steering, I would suggest taking those apart and putting thread lock compound on the screws because they loosened up on me within the first battery pack and I had to go crank everything down for the Ackerman bar and the tabs out on the steering knuckles. So just want you guys to be aware of that. The other thing that actually happened during the first run of this vehicle is the screw pulled through the wing. I was just doing wheelies with it and the screw that mounts the wing just pulled through. So I actually had to go put a big washer on there, a little bit longer of a screw, and that's how the wing is held down. But other than that, you know, the truck worked really well. It wasn't until after I shut off the cameras, again, I really like this truck, so after the cameras were off, I went back out for another run on the BMX track with a 6S pack, and I kind of knew better. I knew I shouldn't have just sent this thing off of the jumps on 6S because it was a bit wild. It wasn't set up for it. And that's when I did a little bit more damage to it. I nosed down really hard once and actually bent the center rear dog bone. So there is some chassis flex back there. I also bent the Ackerman bar. There's now a lot of toe out and the steering is binding, and that's because that bar is bent. And again, it was from coming down way too hard on the front end of the vehicle. I noticed there's also a little bit of suspension slop after that big hit as well. So this, again, it's a great truck. I like this truck. I'm really going to enjoy this truck once I fix it back up again. But you know, I think you just need to be aware that if you are going to run it on 6S, do it in big open fields when you're racing buddies and stuff like that. So, you know, 5S might work. I saw some people talking about maybe trying some 5S packs. Definitely 4S packs. This thing is a blast. Love it. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed this review. If you haven't done so yet, please click the subscribe button and the notifications bell. There's more information in the video description below. While you're there, throw me a comment. Tell me what you think about the new Corrale line. I'm interested to hear it. We'll see you back soon for some more RC Driver videos.